What is going on, everybody? It's your observant lineman here, Uche Nwaneri. And here we are, Thursday Night Football, Miami versus the Bengals. Tua Tagovailoa goes down again, I'm sure, as we all are seeing it in real time. Tua injured, head and neck injuries, knocked unconscious on the field. And it's an absolute tragedy because like 99% of the people who watched Miami play against the Buffalo Bills, who saw any highlights of that game, we all understand that Tua Tagovailoa had a concussion last week against the Bills. Here's the video from that. You can see he gets up off the ground, he stumbles backwards, shakes his head, loses his balance, almost falls down, grabs his head again, almost falls down, falls into his offensive lineman, and they rush to come look at him and to come check on him. And they want us to believe that was a back injury. A back injury? Well, why hasn't he grabbed his back yet? I know I've had a back injury before, and it's the kind of injury where you just methodically just kind of crumple down to the ground because you can't even hold your own weight up because of the pain from the injury. You're not jogging forward and losing your balance and stumbling into the ground. So it's clear that he had a head injury. There's no doubt in that. From the layman, you know that that's a head injury. Clearly something was covered up with what happened last week, but don't take my word for it. Let's look at the experts, the people who have trained in this field of neurological injuries, who talk about what happened to Tua in real time. As you see here, Chris Nowinski, a founding member of Concussion LF, a neuroscientist who is commenting on the situation with the actual footage here from tonight's hit that Tua took. He says, "This is a disaster. Pray for Tua. Fire the medical staffs and coaches. I predicted this and I hate that I'm right. 2 concussions in 5 days can kill someone. This can end careers. How are we so stupid in 2022? And obviously, we've all seen the footage. But here it is. Tua gets slammed in the ground in almost an identical manner as what happened 5 days ago. And you see the fingers. You see the posturing that his body's taken. That all of that means something. There are actually reasons why his body is reacting that way, why his brain is reacting that way. And it's not something that, that we can look at and take lightly and even trust the word of the medical staff in Miami when they talk about anything about Tua and his head injury from this moment forward. But here is another tweet prior to the game, prior to Thursday night's game. Now, if you watch Lineman Life Live, we had a discussion about this on Wednesday. Tua Tagovailoa. This is a guy who, by all accounts, should have been out of that game.
Mm-hmm.
I am eager to hear what their excuse is when they talk about why he was allowed to go back in the game, because we all saw what happened to that kid. He landed on his head. He whipped his head into the ground, was clearly dazed from it, which is a concussion, point blank, period. There's no really getting around that. And somehow he was allowed to go back on the field. That's a decision that, I don't think any player is going to be no, I don't want to play. But
right. I'm just shocked because I thought they had independent doctors. Like, have they figured out some way to game the system? Because I've seen on multiple occasions over the last 3-4 years where players looked shook and came back in the game. And before that, like 5 years ago, players you wouldn't even see a concussion happen, and they're not eligible to return. Something has shifted, whether they have some drug or something, some like instant, something that contracts the pupils or something, that they're beating these tests somehow, these concussion protocols.
I know for
the
money too, but for the Dolphins, I think their reasoning was it was a back issue. And the reason why he fell is because his back tightened up. So that's what they're going off about. It's like that's what they're trying to cover it as.
With urinating tree, 5-point vids, we talked about whether or not he should have been allowed into that back into that game after his injury in Miami when they played against the Bills. It was evident. We looked at the footage. We looked at the replays of the play. his head slammed into the ground almost in the same manner and the same velocity as his head slammed into the ground in this game against the Bengals. And he came back in the game like nothing happened. Miami said it was a back injury. We know that was garbage. But here, Chris Nowinski also says, this was before the game, before the Thursday night game. If Tua takes the field tonight, it's a massive step back for concussion care in the NFL. If he has a second concussion that destroys his season or career, everyone involved will be sued and should lose their jobs, coaches included. We all saw it. Even they must know this isn't right. And he's not lying. I mean, we all saw this. We all watched and we were like, why is he back in the game? He should not be in the game. I've had a concussion on the field in the NFL before. They would not let me even come out of the locker room after they ran a battery of tests to confirm that I had a head injury. They told me to sit in the training room. I tried to walk back out through the tunnel after halftime just to go watch the game. I knew I wasn't going back in. And I had people rush to my side and tell me, no, you can't even go on that field. You can't even walk out those doors. You have to stay inside. And this was back in, 2012? It's 2022. That's 10 years later. And they allow it to happen because it's a big game and that's their star quarterback. What kind of lack of judgment, what kind of lapse in judgment do you have to have as a neurologist? Because there are many layers you have to get through before you're allowed to go back on the field for them to confirm that you don't have a concussion. Tua was clearly concussed when he got up in Miami in that game against Buffalo. And in 5 days' time, you have a quarterback who was very likely on the field with a brain that was still injured from a concussion that he had just received. And now he receives a second concussion. But let's take a look at what another doctor has to say about this. This is Jesse Morris. He's an MD, board-certified sports and family medicine physician in Miami, a Fins fan. And he himself describes what this situation really is for Tua Tagovailoa. He says, I have serious concerns about another concussion, this time with decorative posturing. Let's just call it that because I can't say that word right for some reason. As I mentioned previously, the main concern if returning from a concussion before symptoms resolve is second impact syndrome. Let's hope not, because that could be deadly. Now, if you take a look here, manifestations of brain injury. This is the posturing that you essentially got from Tua. His fingers were locked out in different weird positions in front of his face, and it's different than, the just laid out position that you see here in the bottom portion of this photo. But, you look at that and you see this is dangerous. This is dangerous. This is dangerous stuff. It's dangerous stuff. And here are some of the symptoms of second impact syndrome. Second impact syndrome is a condition that occurs when a concussed individual sustains a second impact upon their head before fully recovering from the first blow. We can almost guarantee that's where Tua is right now. Symptoms: loss of consciousness, headache, vomiting, dilated pupils or vision loss, seizure. High-risk groups: young peoples, ages 13 to 24. He falls directly in that category. Athletes in high-contact sports, such as American football, hockey, and boxing. Common misdiagnosis: stroke, cardiovascular emergency, seizure. The best way to prevent SIS is to ensure proper rest and recovery following an initial concussion. There is no way around that. I mean, I personally can attest to having a concussion, and you take a baseline test before the football season starts to determine where you are in regards to your cognitive motion, your memory retention, things of that nature. You have to reach that threshold before you can be cleared to go back to play. Now, the Jags wanted me to be able to get healthy to play in the last game of the season. I told them that wasn't happening. There's no way in hell, because at the end of the day, by the time I was fully recovered, and cleared by doctors, it was 4 weeks later. I didn't get past my baseline testing model for 4 weeks. And they said that was a mild concussion I had? 4 weeks. Can you imagine seeing what we've seen with Tua Tagovailoa, that he had a mild concussion last week And you certainly know he didn't have a mild concussion tonight. The NFL has a lot of answering to do. The Miami Dolphins have a lot of answering to do. And I'm sure there should be lawyers getting involved in this at some point. The NFLPA absolutely should be getting involved in this because there's a cover-up going on here, folks, and it's clear as day. This is the quintessential sweep it under the rug that NFL, not even just NFL, that football culture itself uses whenever you're dealing with injuries that might affect a team's ability to win because of the level of player that it happens to. This is what you see in the movies. This is what you hear about. I love football as much as the next person, but I know what the dangers are when it comes to being that tough guy or being someone who is manipulated by the system itself to keep you in the game for the betterment of the team in wins and losses. These are people who are thinking about not the player, but they're thinking about a win. They're thinking about, their own personal benefit from that win. And that's why Tua was put in the situation he was put in tonight. And that's on the Dolphins. That is on the Dolphins. He's a young guy who wants to play ball, but it's their job to tell him, no, you cannot go. You are still recovering from a concussion. And the worst thing possible, the worst case scenario, is that we put you back out there and you get hit with another concussion again. Then what? Then what? If I'm Tua's family, I'm talking to lawyers. There's no other option here but to get lawyers involved to find out what really happened and what Miami was hiding from last week, because it's clear that they were hiding something. Nobody who saw that game last week will tell you that he had a back injury. But you guys let me know what you think. Leave your comments down below. What do you think Tua's family should be doing in response to this situation? Obviously, we all hope for his full recovery, but it's going to be a very touchy next 24 hours when it comes to where his career goes from here, because this could be a career-threatening injury. 2 concussions in 5 days in that violent a way, the way that he was slammed into the ground, 2 times slammed into the ground, it could be dangerous. It could be dangerous, but I want to know what you guys think. Make sure y'all leave your comments down below. Hit the like button if you like this video. Subscribe to the Observer Lineman Uche Nwaneri if you haven't already done so. Appreciate you guys for checking me out on this quick video to talk about the situation with Tua Tagovailoa. Appreciate y'all, and I'll catch y'all on the next one. Peace.